Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello friends, welcome to this video. How are you today? I hope you are always healthy and happy. Let me introduce myself. My name is Salma, Elvia, Nabilah, and my student ID number 121060004, and I'm from English Education Department, Swadaya Gunung Jati, Cirebon. Before getting into the materials, let me ask you two questions, guys. The first question, do you like to spend your free time with a reading novel or storybook? So, what's your favorite novel or storybooks? Second question, do you like watching Disney movie with your friends like Cinderella? What's your favorite movie? Did you know that activities such as reading novels or storybooks and watching Disney movie are part and example of narrative text? In this video, we will talk about definition, purpose, genre of narrative text, generic structure, language feature, and example. So, what exactly is narrative text? Let's check it out. We can do the first one. The first one is about the definition of narrative text. So, what is definition of narrative text? Narrative text is a kind of text to retell the imaginative or factual story that the past tense, that is not now or not in the future, but narrative text tell the story of the present. The second is purpose of narrative text. So, what is the purpose of narrative text? The purpose of narrative text, the first is to entertain the reader. The authors bring the readers into the world of the story, allowing them to experience new adventure, emotion, and situation. The second is to teach moral value. Many narrative texts contain moral value to be conveyed to the readers. This value can be conveyed explicit through direct message or implied through the action and consequence of the character in the story. And the last is to emotional connection. Written narrative text can establish a strong emotional connection with the readers. Characters that are heartfelt and make readers feel that they are part of the story. This can result in meaningful reading experience. The next is narrative text genre. Narrative text genre consists of the first, fables. Fables are stories about animals, for example, the ant and the grasshoppers. And the second, myths. Myths are stories that are considered factual or true, for example, as Malin Kundang. All of friends, here are two video examples of fables and myths. The first video is the fables. Please look carefully.
Ant and the Grasshopper. One summer's day, a lazy grasshopper was chirping, singing, and enjoying the sun. The grasshopper saw an ant working very hard.
In addition to fables, there is also example of myths. Please pay attention.
Once upon a time, in the West Sumatra, there was a family who living in a pool. To change their life, his father went abroad.
The next is legend. Legends are stories that tell the origin of a place and are often considered to have historical or true origin, although they are often filled with supernatural elements. The next is characteristic of legend. The first, legend usually focus on how a place, such as village, mountain, and lake. The second, although they are believed to have elements of historical truth, the details and accuracy of legend stories are often valued as they are passed down from generation to generation orally. The next legend usually involves supernatural elements such as miracle and magic. These elements add to evil and make the story more fantastic. The next, folktale. Folktale as a story that is told orally from one generation to the next, so that it's become part of the tradition of society. For example, Hansel and Gretel. All friends, here are two videos for example of legend and folktale. The first video is legend. Please do carefully.
In a valley in Sumatra, there lived a farmer named Toba. He was a diligent farmer, but unfortunately, his harvest was not always bountiful, and he often went hungry. Because of his hunger, Toba went fishing in the river.
The second video is about the Hansel and Gretel. Please pay attention. Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, in a faraway forest, there lived a poor woodcutter, his wife, and the next is fairy tales. Fairy tales are children's stories that contain elements of magic to the character and there is moral message. For example, Cinderella. The next is love story. Love story is a story that tells the struggle of the characters to gain the love of the main characters. For example, Romeo and Juliet. Here are two videos for example of fairy tales. The first video is about Cinderella. Please look carefully.
Cinderella's story. Once upon a time, there was a kind girl named Cinderella. All of the animals
Let's love story. It is Romeo and Juliet. Please pay attention.
The story of Romeo and Juliet begins in the town of Verona, Italy. Where there lived two powerful families who were sworn enemies.
In addition to what has been mentioned before, the genre of narrative text also consists of science fiction, horror, history, slice of life, and personal experience. The next is generic structure. Generic structure of narrative text refers to the common stage most stories follow. While there can be variative, this basic structure provides a framework for building a story. The first, orientation. This is the opening section that introduces the reader to this basic situation as establish character, setting, and background. The second, complication. Tell the problem of the story how the main characters solve them. This part includes the situation, activity, or even the lead problem to the climax. And the last is resolution. This is where the main conflict of the story is resolved. It saw the end of the story, usually happy ending. In addition to the main generic structure, there is also a generic structure that is an option, so you can use it or not use it, not problem. The first, reorientation. This is a concluding section that provides closure or additional information. The second, coda, change of the character of lesson or value of story. The second, evaluation, the stepping back to evaluate the story or the moral message of the story. The next is language feature. Language feature consists of the first, use adverb of time. This word tells when something happened, like once upon a time, one day, suddenly, then, after, and before. The second, specific character. These are the named individuals that participate in the story. For example, Cinderella. The next, use direct speech, and this conveys what characters say directly. For example, where are you going, Cinderella? And the next, use of adjective. For example, nice, diligent, and kind. The next is use of time, connectives, and conjunction to sequence even though time. For example, however, although, later, and then. The next is use of past tense. Narrative texts usually use the past tense to show that events have already happened. Next is use of action verbs. These verbs describe what characters or things do. For example, explain, provide, run, and jump. And the last, use of saying and thinking verbs. These verbs show what characters are feelings, thinking, or sayings. For example, said, explained, felt, and believed. Let's look the following example together. Why the first paragraph as orientation? Because it introduces the setting, describe the location as the forest, and the place that can be dangerous. And the second introduces the characters. We meet two close friends here and who are working together. And the last, establishing context. It tells us about the potential danger they might face and the promise they made to each other. And then, why the second paragraph as complication? Because emergence of obstacle and conflict. And the last, why the third paragraph as a resolution? Because consists how to solve problem solving until we know in the explanation about the narrative text, and then there are so many types of narrative text. Hopefully it can be understood properly and correctly. Thank you for attention. Stay healthy and have a nice day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.